All right, so we got the movie called Purple Hearts. Let's just get it. So we got this chick by the name of Cassie. She works at this bar, but she actually does music on the side, and she got this group called the Loyals. So she's basically doing her thing, and then here comes these military dudes. They end up popping up. One of the dudes is named Frankie. Now Frankie was somebody she hadn't seen in a long time. In fact, she used to babysit him. They were like best friends and all that. There's one guy named Luke was trying to highlight her or whatever like that. Now Luke, when it comes to Luke and her, their ideologies don't match. So he took an L that night. You know what I'm saying? But then Cassie's got to go to her car for like 5 minutes, so she tells a homegirl to take over for like 5. So what's she do when she go to the car? She sticks an insulin needle in her arm. And you're like, what the fuck is that for? Well, apparently she got diabetes. She found out like 6 months ago, and now she needs insulin. Basically, if she doesn't get that dose regularly, she could die. Now, Luke and his boys about to be deployed to go back out into the military or whatever like that. They were supposed to go to Iraq or whatever. So Luke's situation, you see him jogging, all of a sudden this guy tries to almost run him over. I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? Turns out it ends up being this dude named Jono. We don't call him John. I'm not calling him Jono. So apparently Luke still owes John like $15,000 or something like that. And he basically threatens his family if he doesn't pay him up. And he's basically been paying in increments so far. So he's like really not he had a whole lot of money. But the thing is, he's about to be deployed in like another 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Cassie's trying to get some insulin. But the type that she needs is not covered under her insurance. So she tries to pay out of pocket. It's going to end up being like $500, which is money that she doesn't have. Considering the situation, she can't even afford to fix the door in her house. There's a lot of other situations. But bottom line, she ain't got $500 to be paying off. You know what I'm saying? Her mom comes through. She tries to give him some money. So you're thinking to yourself, she's pretty much fucked, right? All right, so here's the situation. She ends up going to Frankie's house. Luke is there. And she gets this idea, was like, yeah, hey, Frankie, let's get married. He's like, what? So apparently, if she gets married to somebody in the military, she can get like full coverage and health benefits or whatever like that, making it easier for her to get insulin so she can live. The problem with that is if you get caught doing a fake marriage, then obviously the person get court-martialed and probably arrested and probably deported too. So Frankie's like, yeah, I'd love to help you, but I'm not doing that. Besides, I just got back with my homegirl, Riley. So they're about to do big things. He plans on marrying her for real though. And then Luke hears the conversation. He's just like, seriously, that's what you're going to do? They go back and forth about the government and like a whole bunch of other things. Like I said, their ideologies don't match. You know what I'm saying? Luke came from a crazy ass household. Cassie, and especially her mom, came from a whole nother country. They were pretty much immigrants. But when he was talking, he realized he sounded stupid as shit. So you really couldn't say nothing to even combat that. So it gets to this point where Cassie's trying to figure out what to do. And then Luke comes up with the scenario that he's going to marry a wife or whatever like that and, you know, do all this whole shit. But he tells that to John because John is getting impatient with this nigga paying him his money. This is going to come back to bite him in the ass. I know it. So basically, Luke and Cassie get together. They have this proposal, and basically, they're with it. But he says, whatever you do, don't tell anybody about this, especially my dad. Because at some point, he ended up telling his brother the situation, which clearly he ain't got no money for because he's working as an engineer or whatever like that. He's working on cars. He's got his wife and his son, but bottom line is he ain't got $15,000 to pay that shit off. So with no choice, he deals the deal with Cassie. So basically, they pretend to be a married couple. They get the marriage and all that. They see off all the military guys because it's about to be that time for them to go on a mission. And they end up going to Iraq. But before that, they go in this hotel where everybody thinks they're supposed to consummate the marriage, right? Now, the thing is, they kind of get into this back and forth argument because one of the guys was talking about immigrants and just like talking about killing all Arabs and whatnot. It was just like, okay. But he's basically just talking out of pocket because basically they're just scared. You know what I'm saying? They got to go to war. So anyway, Luke and Cassie have this conversation or whatever like that. But bottom line is, Luke just comes out and admits it, says he's scared. So she does everything she can to try to comfort him. And they end up kissing. They ain't get it popping for real. Giving up business. So Cassie wakes up the next day. She sees Luke up early in the morning. He was been up since like 3. He was doing running. He was doing jogging. Just getting his mind prepared for the craziness that he's going to be seeing when he goes to Iraq. So for them to do what they did, you'd think they kind of like each other somewhat, right? So anyway, she drives Luke over to the buses. They get ready to deploy. They kiss and all that stuff. And now it's time for them to go on their mission. Now, throughout all this time, she is getting money, benefits and stuff like that so she can get her insulin. And Luke has been getting his money. He's been paying off John little by little. So, you know, keeping him out of bay. So the reason why Luke didn't want his dad to know is because he actually was a military cop. And he still acts like it, you know what I'm saying, digging into back personal information and whatnot, especially when it comes to his son. Basically saying if his dad found out, he'd turn him in himself for real. I'm like, damn. So basically, they're able to talk to each other. She's writing them letters, you know what I'm saying, singing songs. And she's been creating this song, and actually, Luke inspired her to do this certain song. It's basically talk about how the military is helping, having the boys come home, whatever like that. She actually does a couple songs. And these songs get picked up by certain people, so it's like, oh, she on the way to the big time now with this. And she's been able to make more money off it in spite of the fact that she's already getting money from health benefits and whatnot. Now, around the same time, Luke is doing all these missions or whatever like that. He gets into this one mission, and it looks like he stepped on a fucking landmine. I was like, oh shit, is he dead? Turns out it was some IED explosion or something like that. I think they were basically meant to stun people, but bottom line is we find out that he's in the hospital in Germany. So while Cassie's blowing up, getting everything popping or whatever like that, she hasn't heard from him in like 3 days. So she gets the news from Corporal Marshall or whatever like that. So she tries to tell Luke's brother Jacob the news or whatever like that. But the thing is, she ends up talking to his father. Turns out she didn't know Luke's brother and Luke's dad had the same name. But as they're talking, she pretty much breaks down the news. She says they're married, but she didn't say how. So they basically ship Luke back to the US. Cassie shows up, but then he's surprised to see everybody there, including his dad. So he's trying to let her know, like, basically, we still got to keep this charade up because her dad looks into everything. So at this point, when he finally gets out the hospital, they got to live together. So his dad and his brother help him up to get to this 3-story part because she lives in a 3-story building. Yeah, he's basically in a wheelchair now. He's got to go up 3 flights of fucking steps. Now, the crazy thing is, she asks about Frankie, right? The thing is, Frankie didn't make it in the battle. He's done deal dead as shit. I'm like, oh. So one thing I forgot to mention, when they had this fake marriage or whatever like that, Frankie was the right-hand man. You know, best man. And when they asked for rings, Frankie gave her the ring that he was going to give to Riley. But he figures he was too young to marry her yet because he was only 20. He says, just do me a favor. Just give it back when this little fake marriage is annulled or whatever like that. Because after everything went down for a couple of months, they were going to divorce each other and then, you know, go on these separate ways and make it look like, you know, it was a real marriage. So at the funeral when Frankie passed away or whatever like that, Cassie talks to Riley and lets her know that Frankie wanted her to have this ring. So he basically gives the wedding ring to Riley and then they hug it out. Luke was there. He was in a wheelchair, saluting and everything like that. Now, when Luke and Cassie get back to the house, it's kind of somber and everything like that. But they're still arguing like they're not really married. Like they're not really with the terms and conditions and stuff like that. You thought to yourself, like, maybe they're getting some, you know, a rapport together, like some development or whatever like that. But it makes it feel like they still feel the same way when they started this up before. It was like, now eventually they start building a connection again. But now the problem is while Luke is trying to rehab and get himself walking again, John's getting mad because the money done slowed up. So while Luke is rehabbing at this spot, he's at this little park or whatever like that, Cassie comes through with Jacob, the brother. It ends up getting Luke a dog. His name's Peaches, who takes a liking to Luke real early. Luke is the type of guy that acts like he doesn't need help, but he's like, okay, he just gives in. So Cassie's spot been blowing up. She's been playing at big time events now. Now the thing is, Cassie don't know about John. And she really didn't know why Luke needed to be in this fake marriage in the first place. See, Luke knew about her diabetes and stuff like that, so she already had told him the situation why she was doing it. But she never really knew why Luke needed to be in it. So we get to the situation where somebody broke into Cassie's mom's house. Luke heads straight over there. Cassie comes from the hospital to check on her mom. And Luke goes in the house to investigate. Now he goes in the house, he sees some things smashed, but he don't see nothing. And all of a sudden he gets a call from John. John's like, yeah, I got more than enough information to put your girl on blast and everything like that. Bottom line, better have my money. So I'm thinking about myself the whole time. It's just one guy named John. Like, yo, if Luke could have really easily fucked this nigga up. Now I ain't gonna front, John do got guns. I mean, he gets a little bit of a disadvantage now because of his leg problem situation, whatever like that. Now he is being able to walk or whatever, but it's a slow process. And it showed this one scene where she had to help him in the bath. His leg was fricasseed. So I guess this one point you see John walking in a parking lot or whatever, and then Luke comes out of nowhere, attacks his ass, just beats the shit out of him. Takes his gun, dismantles it, whatever like that, gives him the rest of his money. He's like, hey, yo, you got your money. Now get the fuck away from me. Now after he beat this nigga up, he went back to the house. Now Cassie gets pissed off at Luke. Now why? Because apparently he took her mom's car or whatever like that, and there was blood on the seat, and her mom started freaking out. So Luke had to basically break down the situation. So apparently a long time ago, Luke was an addict. He was doing drugs and all that shit, but bottom line is he's been cleared. He's been sober for like 2 years now. But the reason his dad was always pissed and never, disappointed in him because he ended up stealing one of his dad's cars that was like $50,000. And while he was totally zooted, he ended up crashing the damn car. To try and pay it back, he would borrow money from John. And that's why he owes John a shit ton of money. But the thing Cassie's pissed off at that, one, she didn't know this information. Two, her mom's life was in jeopardy, and that's pretty much all she has left. She pretty much tells Luke to get out. Now, Luke goes out, he's like jogging around or whatever. Cassie's got this performance to do. Then all of a sudden, the lieutenant ends up popping up at his house. So after Cassie does her performance, she gets back to the house, she gets a call from Luke's dad. And he's basically like, yo, what's going on? It's fake marriage and shit? Like, what's going on? The jig is up. So I'm thinking to myself, who snitched? There's only one person that knew, and that was fucking John. His bitch ass snitched even though he got all his money? Clown ass nigga. So basically, they're about to have the trial. And he basically tells the judge, like, she ain't had nothing to do with it. This is all me. I take full responsibility. She didn't know about the risk and everything like that. So I was like, yeah, man, that's crazy. So he basically gets court-martialed and he's sentenced to like 6 months in jail. So the thing is, after all this, she's got like this one more concert, but it's like at a freaking stadium now. So after she does her song, she goes straight over to Luke. And his family's taking him over to the bus so he could be court-martialed and actually go to jail. But then Cassie finally shows up. She kisses him and all that stuff, and you could tell she really loves him for real. Hell, all her best songs were motivated from him. And so we find out she basically waited 6 months for him, and then they end up getting married for real. And there's a credits roll. We see Luke, Cassie, and a dog, Peaches, enjoying life, living life, and all that good shit. The end. Yeah, so it was a pretty good movie. Purple Hearts on Netflix. Check it out.